for joining us for this episode of Reaching for Research by Students for Students. My name is Jordan Pilch. I'm a senior here at the University of Arizona studying molecular and cellular biology and microbiology. I am also a student assistant here on the public affairs team at BIO5. Today I am joined by Cameron Boles. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to give a brief introduction to the people at home?
Sure. My name is Cameron Boles. I am from Phoenix, Arizona originally for 17 years, born and raised. And I joined the U of A in 2019, studying neuroscience and cognitive science with minors in EMS, Spanish, and biochemistry.
3 minors. Jeez Louise, that's so many.
It sounds worse than it is.
So what made you want to do EMS, Spanish, and I forgot the last one?
Biochem.
Biochem. What made you want to do those 3 as like your minors?
Well, EMS is something that I became passionate about my freshman year of college. And I just thought that it'd be something really impactful, and I just joined the university's program with it. And it was just something that I wanted to really pursue. Along with that was Spanish, which is something I did all of high school, and being bilingual is such a plus in this
really
world,
important.
especially in Tucson. And it's just very important as a life skill.
Yeah.
And biochem was just kind of on the way.
Biochem is just like, I'm also here. I might as well do this.
Exactly.
So tell us about your journey through STEM. How did you get into your current research position? How did you find your love of science? Or STEM, I should say.
Okay. Well, I'd say STEM started back around junior year of high school.
Okay.
I always had an idea that I wanted to help people and that I wanted to be in science and just something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I took some psychology classes as well as some biology classes that I really started getting really into it.
Yeah.
With biology in particular, the human body and anatomy and all that, I just found so interesting, as well as human behavior I just found fascinating.
Hence why the neuroscience and cognitive science major.
There you go, yeah.
So what about human anatomy and what about science was appealing to you? What made that something that you clicked with?
It's people.
People?
It's the people that you interact with every day, your family, and it's just very relevant no matter where you are in the world.
Okay.
So it's just constant thing in everybody's lives, and being able to have the power of knowledge to know how to work with people is really empowering.
Definitely. And then from there, how did you get into a research position? Because you were also a researcher here at the university.
That's right. Funny story, actually. I was a board member and still am a board member for the Neuroscience and Cognitive Science Association of Students, also known as NSCSAS.
Okay.
And it is a club basically designed to help underclassmen find their place and find a community, as well as research opportunities on campus.
That's
And
awesome.
my sophomore year, so last year, I hosted a research panel where we had a couple of different professors and PIs come on board. And one of them was Dr. Gotard, my current principal investigator. And I was really interested in what she was doing, and something in me told me, just send an email. Just put my name out there and say I was interested, and after that she gave me an interview, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. It is just as simple as send the email. We keep telling y'all, just send the email. It's scary, but the worst that they're gonna do is not reply. Then just send a second one,
Exactly.
Have you experienced any challenges or obstacles in your journey through STEM or getting into research that you've kind of had to overcome or kind of look at differently?
I'd say the main one was being rejected from the UBERT program on campus. It's a super prestigious program where the undergraduate biology research program on campus that really just helps foster in students and give them a firm position on campus, and basically increments them into just the research done here.
Yeah.
And I was not accepted when I applied, but at the same time that kind of gave me a little bit of fire under me.
Yeah.
And told me I know that I'm someone who would do well in research and someone that would benefit from the things that something like UBERP had to offer.
Yeah.
So being a part of a lab and having all my friends and other people in my lab in UBERP, that was a little bit difficult from the get-go. But since then I've found a research position from that, I guess, experience, and that determination really came from that.
I'm glad that it helped you, but I'm still sorry that it was something that was like a disappointment at the time, you know? You gotta go through those every once in a while. It's just something that doesn't happen, but at the same time, you will get there and you will work on it, you know?
Everything happens for a reason, you know?
So what are you working on right now in Dr. Gotard's lab?
Well, there's a couple of projects going on right now, but in particular, the overarching idea is that it's a neurophysiology lab where we look at cognitive and social and emotional behaviors in primates. We have rhesus macaques, which are cute little monkeys, that we have performed tasks where I'm able to basically look at their eye movements when watching videos that we artificially create a hierarchy of other monkeys that they're able to view. And I analyze their choices on which ones they choose to look at based on who's more dominant of the pair, who's more familiar to our viewer monkey.
Yeah.
And basically with those variables see which preferences are innate versus learned.
Okay. And how does observing which monkeys the subject monkey looks at, how does that tell you the difference between learned and innate behavior?
I love this question. Okay.
I'm so glad I asked it then.
Can I use some props?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So.
We have props in this episode. This makes me so happy.
All right. So our two objects are going to be my wallet and this magazine. Okay. So first, I'm going to show you one object. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the magazine. This object is familiar to you.
Yeah.
If you entered a room full of, let's say, 10 people and you knew 9 of them, and one of them's a stranger, which one are you going to look at first?
I'd probably look at the people that I know, like our camera person, who you guys can't see, but I'd probably look at them.
Sure. Now let's say you're a little bit, I guess, you're trying to sense the room out and you're maybe a little bit uncomfortable with them in there. Now who would you look at first?
If I was a little bit uncomfortable, I still think that I'd probably end up looking at the people that I know, because they're the ones that are familiar and that I have kind of the sense of like control.
Control over. Sure. Yeah. Now, if you entered an area without someone of comfort, or maybe just a room full of strangers, everything is novel to you. Yeah. Everything that you're analyzing and working with is very new, and you're just trying to take in as much information as you can.
Yeah.
So this is your friend. This is the person you're familiar with. Now let's say at the same time I showed you the unfamiliar, the stranger, my wallet, and I showed you both of them at the same time. The innate act of a human, of a monkey, has typically been, normal is a terrible word, but I guess typical average response is people and monkeys would look at the wallet because they're not familiar with it. Kind of like if you had a room that you're looking in and you see one new object in it, your eye's going to be drawn to the bright red balloon.
Oh, because it's the new thing there. Okay, I can understand that.
So now, with that being the innate, I guess, response to that stimuli, let's swap these out for actual humans, or in their case, other monkeys that are also in the same species.
Okay.
So first, we'll have a alpha monkey be our familiar. So we have our familiar monkey. This is the one that is, I guess, normal to you, the person you're friends with. And then we have a beta monkey who is lower in social class to our viewer. But once they've learned that hierarchy, if I show you the alpha first, and then I show you alpha versus beta, your innate tendency is to look at the new thing, which in this case is beta, but we're trying to see if they're going to look at the one you are familiar with because they have a higher rank.
Yeah.
So we're sort of putting against each other the concepts of being innate, social, without any sociality, just your predetermined response of what you would do in a given stimulus, versus once you've learned a social hierarchy, you've learned the room and you know who you're working with, how your decision making on who to look at first and who to look at longer changes.
Okay. That's actually really cool and interesting. That was a perfect analogy. Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course.
Oh my gosh. And what kind of got you interested in looking at this? You had mentioned in your journey that anatomy and kind of brain specifically was something interesting. What got you to be interested in this research question?
Ooh, good question.
I always dump people with the sudden questions, but I don't send them before the interview. It's also totally okay if it's just something that's like you're naturally curious about.
I guess for me, it's the implications of what a result would be.
Okay.
In particular, a study like this and similar ones to it all have a wide variety of implications based on the results. So, for example, there are studies being done right now in pre-screening first graders and elementary schoolers to screen if they have a autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
Where their natural response would be they don't really pick up on those social cues.
Yeah.
And would not follow the average or typical response pattern to the same stimulus.
Okay.
So someone along those lines would be, you can only find that out through testing like this.
Okay.
In coordination with projects like this, our lab also has electrode studies where we can actually go into the brain and record the cells and the, I guess, electricity and action potentials that they're firing, and just kind of analyze the rhythm. And when they're watching these videos that we're showing them, we'll see different cell movements, especially in the amygdala and a couple of other areas in the brain.
That's so cool.
And we are able to just, I guess, correlate the activity with different stimuli.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, this is very much outside of my realm of things. I'm like, I can tell you about action potential. I know how those sodium, potassium pumps work. I know how all that happens, but
Right.
the different areas of the brain and how they ignite, like, that's such an interesting thing, you know, to go through and start looking at. So that's a lot of what you're doing in research, a lot of what you're doing in STEM right now. Outside of this work in STEM, what are some things that keep your passions, you know, keep them going? What keeps you motivated?
Well, I guess for the passion part of that, it would be music.
Music, what kind? Do you like singing? Do you like playing? Just listening?
Mostly listening.
Okay.
I've tried to learn piano and stuff like that. I'm not very good, but when it comes to music, I like to listen to everything that I can and make playlists. My quarantine project was to get as many music posters of my favorite artists as possible.
Oh my God.
And right now my room will have by Sunday 24 posters
That's
that
so
I'm adding
many.
to.
Are they of all different bands and artists?
Yes, everyone's different.
That's so cool. And so what genre do you find yourself most interested in, or the one that you keep gravitating towards?
I'd say probably just anything upbeat,
Okay.
specifically maybe like an alt rock or something mixed with like pop, rap, anything that's really just kind of energizing.
I can dig that. I can appreciate that. I'm very much like, I think Spotify determined that it was alternative rock for me, alternative pop rock. But like, I'm just kind of down with anything that's kind of happy and bubbly, you know?
Exactly.
What else outside of music keeps you going?
I have 5 roommates.
Oh my gosh,
and we all
that's
have this,
so many.
We have this one house. We've been a friend group since my freshman year, which was 2 years ago. And we had already been close for all that time. And when we all moved in together, we already knew each other's nuances to a degree. And it's just a great environment that I get to be in every day. Just surrounded by people that I love and people that really just look out for me, especially when I'm stressed, you know, exam weeks and stuff like that. It's just great to be a part of. I'm very much a people person, so being able to have that constantly in my life I'm very appreciative.
That's very different than how me and my roommate are. Cameron, by the way, and this is something that I'm also going to mention now and make him talk about, he is a College of Science ambassador, just like me, and so is my roommate. But me and my roommate are very much not like that. We are very much like, we are introverts. There are days when we are literally like, don't talk to me.
Right.
Like, we're just not going to exist right now. Just don't talk to me. I just, no. So I can appreciate that. Like, I get very energized by like talking like this, but that's very different than me, where I'm just like, no, I need my own little quiet space, you know?
Sure.
And as I said, you're a College of Science ambassador. How'd you get involved with that?
Well, one of my favorite people on this planet, and I hope he sees this, Eddie Vargas, you know who you are, was the previous College of Science ambassador for neuroscience. It was him and Gigi. And when Eddie graduated this past year, he passed the torch to me. And he basically said, this is what the scope of things you'd be doing is. You'd be helping out a lot of prospective students, as well as just activities around the College of Science in general, and just being able to support your peers in a lot of ways. Something that's important to me is giving back to the organizations and people that really helped me who I became today. And a big part of that was both my neuroscience program as well as just the College of Science in general. So I remember being a high schooler touring U of A, as well as being a freshman, just trying to kind of set my feet and find my group and just find things to be a part of that I'm interested in. And the College of Science was a huge contribution to that. So for Eddie to offer that to me was such a blessing, and I'm just very grateful to follow in his footsteps.
That's awesome. That is so sweet. Oh my gosh. I love having a community and having a near peer like Eddie who was able to go through and say, hey, I know that you're really interested in these things, and give you this opportunity to grow and gain other professional skills that are related to science but are sort of tangential to it, you know?
Right.
They help you expand in a different way than just being a part of the College of Science would be.
Right.
On that note, what's been your favorite part of being an ambassador so far?
Ooh, that's also a good question.
I have all the good questions today.
Honestly, I loved when we gave the new tours. This past summer we had this.
Oh my God, I died during that one.
It was like 115 degrees outside, and it was just the heat of Tucson. But having those, I guess, speaking opportunities where I can directly give back to the people that were in my position was really rewarding for me. Just people that are prospective students and trying to, I guess, see what school is right for them. I remember being in that spot in. It would have been 3 years ago now. So to be on the other side of that and to be able to work on my public speaking skills, as well as, I guess, learn how to be both professional and enjoyable to be around at the same time is a thing that is easier said than done. So finding the balance in that has been really just one of the main benefits I've had as a College of Science ambassador.
Good, and that was like one of the first events that you did, because we were both new ambassadors at that time, who had jumped on and said, yeah, no, we'll do this, it'll be fun. It was so much fun. It was so hot though, so warm.
Yeah.
We were both ready to die by the end of it.
Well, hey, I had the idea of having the little water coolers with us.
Yeah.
Didn't pan out, but
No.
maybe next time.
Next time, probably going to be helpful. I have one last question for you. It's kind of like a two-part question. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your 16-year-old self? And what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody entering into research?
Okay. So, for the 16-year-old self, I guess it'd be to approach everything gradually. My freshman year of undergrad, I was very much overwhelmed by putting everything on my plate right at the beginning. I took on a lot of different positions and volunteer opportunities that I thought would just be, a great way to get experience right off the bat. But moving out of the house that I've lived in all my life, being independent for the first time, as well as just learning campus. It's a big campus. To just find your way around, as well as having a whole new set of people that you're going to become friends with. All of that kind of takes up a huge portion of your time, especially for me, my first semester and my freshman year in general.
Oh yeah.
And I guess my commonality since I was 16 is that I always said yes to everything. And that's, it's great to be ambitious and it's great to have a lot of different interests, but what I mean by starting off gradually is that you should maybe pick one or two things when you get into, maybe you're starting high school, maybe you're starting undergrad. Pick a couple of different extracurriculars along with your classes and your new environment to involve yourself in something that really sticks out to you, something you think is really interesting. And then from there, you have tons of time, there's no rush. You can build up from there and add more things as you go and find your balance.
I definitely can agree with that. there's always this joke of pick your battles carefully, and there's the joke of people who pick entirely too many, and you have to say pick fewer battles, put some battles back. You don't need these. And especially as a freshman, when you're coming into any environment, whether or not it's like with me, I grew up in Tucson. I've grown up with the U of A being a place that I would go pretty regularly, 3-4 times a year. Even with that, it was still a new experience, and it was definitely something that I picked too many things and I had to put some back, and that's okay. And saying yes to something and then determining that no, this isn't something that I can keep doing, that's also really important. It's okay to say I can't keep doing this, you know?
Absolutely. And as for the advice to a new person in STEM, honestly, it's to get your name out in as many places as you can.
Networking.
It's a big part of it. The common phrase is it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yep.
In STEM, it's both.
Yep.
And being able to, I guess, get over the initial hump of rejections and people saying that, oh, I just don't have enough space to enter you into my lab, I don't have enough space for this class, or, there's going to be moments like that for most people. And being able to stay determined and to let the water roll off your back and to say, okay, that sucked, I acknowledge that, but I'm going to put my name out with this PI and this researcher, and just keep going, because eventually U of A's campus is huge enough that you absolutely will find something.
That was really great advice. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Reaching for Research, and thank you so much, Cameron. I really appreciated having you on. You had a lot of great advice to give everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're all done with this episode, guys. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reaching for Research by Students for Students. We really loved having Cam on. I thoroughly enjoyed getting to talk to another science ambassador. In fact, if you would like to go and learn more about the College of Science in general and maybe get to chat one-on-one with a College of Science ambassador, head to the link in the description. You can set up a Zoom meeting with them. I highly recommend it. Everybody who is part of that team is wonderful, and if you're a prospective student, it's one of the best ways to get more information about it. But thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see where you go in the world of science.